on the internet today.
All right, so we're live. I might fool around with my audio here a sec, but let's discuss this last chance you. Um, Before we get into it, let me change my audio. Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Okay, it's still. All right, what about now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
All right. Okay. All right, let's get started. So, what were your general impressions of this season? This season being the first season where Last Chance to Use covering the basketball team.
Me overall impression.
I mean, just like in terms of them doing it on basketball versus the typical football seasons.
I think it was good. I mean, um, I think that I've always said, um, black pain, black pain is almost a corporate asset, meaning, um, there's a lot of profit off of black pain. I don't know how else to really say that. And so to a certain degree, that's kind of what they're packaging up is, black pain, black struggle, you know? And I'm sure we're going to get deeper into that, but that's the overall theme of all these things is, hey, you know what? I come from nothing. This is my only way out. Um, you know, um, I'm trying to get to the league. I probably won't go to the league, but hey, you know what? I can fall back on this education. Meanwhile, I'm not really investing in my education while I'm at the school. So it's just a lot of contradictions. And I'm not saying, and we'll get deeper into this. I'm not saying that the kids are to blame because at the end of the day, they are kids. Um, but this is what sells, man. Like
Right.
how they say, sex sells, black pain sells. If you package it right, if you
Right.
package it in the packaging of hopes and dreams.
So for you, there was no difference between it being football versus it being basketball. For you, it was basically black paint.
Black pain. I mean, I think when you kind of peel back all of the layers, black pain. No one's really going to the league. I mean, maybe someone might make it through, and as Jason Whitlock would say, we'll have a cup of coffee in the league. I mean, cats. I mean, to me, when people start dreaming about playing overseas, go to school, man. Go to school.
All right. All right. And we can get into that more, but I disagree with that. So I thought in some ways it was better with it being basketball because there was less guys on the team. But I think the way they did it this year, they didn't really give us any insight on the recruiting. So it was like we didn't. It was really hard to assess how good, for instance, KJ Allen was when we didn't really know who was looking at him his senior year of high school, or um, they really just didn't discuss that. We saw some of the college coaches come, but I felt like they could have tapped in more of that. But um, but overall, I think that I enjoyed it. I thought the game scenes, um, they made the game scenes a lot more competitive, even though I would always try to look for the score in the back, and a lot of time the coach is going crazy while they had like an 18-point lead, even though they quote unquote were playing bad, but it made for a more entertaining show. All right, so what were your impressions of Coach Mosley?
Real quick, just to kind of add one more point. I think what makes the show so genius is you really think they really make the average fan watching it think, man, these guys have a chance to go to the NBA. KJ Allen's really, really good. And, Joe Hampton, he has a chance. And the reality is low D1 mid-major. I mean, SC, SC is a great school. But is KJ Allen really going to the league?
I mean,
probably not.
But see, for instance, though, they didn't tell us, for instance, how tall KJ Allen was.
Yeah,
I was really unclear.
They don't want
what position he played.
I think that they're smart not to get into those details because I think you're kind of thinking about it on a whole nother level. When the average, I mean, even looking at real quick, even going back to a lot of the football last chance use, how many guys made it to the league? One or two? One or two. So they do a great job of selling the players as stars and making you think, man, these guys are really good. And then at the end of the show, you see what schools they're going to, and you're like, all right, these dudes are too much.
Right. I mean, I disagree that if I just looked up KJ Allen was 6'6/6'7" combo forward, that if he does well at SC and like gets into shape, whatever, if you start at SC, you have a shot to play in the league.
Yeah, he's got a shot.
And that's high D1.
But this is my point though. This is what they're selling to you. You don't even know if he's even going to start. You don't know what's going to happen. But I'm just saying that they do a great job of selling that. Like, damn, I mean, you over here. Oh, next thing you know, when we get to Deshaun, he's going to Sac State. Hey, you know what? If things really work out, Dame Lillard came out of what school? Yeah, everyone's got a chance. Weber, everyone has a chance. But I think the genius of this show is you leave thinking, damn, you know what, these cats really have a shot. There was people who really thought that Fletcher Brown was going to play D1 hoop coming out of high school with a straight face.
Come on, man. No one thought you were playing D1. All right, so what were your impressions of the coach?
I think it was good to see a black coach. I think where a lot of black coaches, and I was going to actually text you as a coach about this. I think a lot of black coaches are good at the recruiting aspect. They're good at motivation. But I think that, and a lot of this has more to do, I think, with not being in the trenches in crucial crunch times. I just didn't believe that they were going to win if they got down to the wire. And at the end of the show, it kind of showed you, hey, in the past years, he kind of choked. He didn't really have enough to really kind of get them through the trenches when the games got close. And at the end of the day, to me, that's what the coach is for. Motivation and, hey, if the game's close, put something together to get us through. And when they showed that in those years, he can never really answer when he was faced in those tests, it made sense to me because throughout the show, I was like, this dude doesn't seem like he can really coach, when it really gets tight.
See, I disagree with that. I think that you're revealing your own mainstream biases. Because the reality was that he wasn't in a lot of close games, and not winning we had no context on losses because sometimes you just may lose. It's basketball, so the coach is not quite as important as in other sports strategically. Um, and so I don't think that they displayed anything on the show that would suggest that he wasn't a good X and O guy. It wasn't like when they were in Kansas, in Independence, Kansas, and they had the white dude from Compton who clearly didn't have his X and O's right. So you can just see that from the game. I didn't get that impression with Coach Mosley. In fact, I greatly appreciated them showing a black coach because I think that, and not just having the black head coach, but having all three coaches be black, because you can tell that they were able to communicate with the players, and that they like really cared. Like it wasn't simply they were using the players for their next stepping stone or whatever. So I thought that like I was impressed with their communications for the most part with how they handle the players. Now, do I think that all of his strategies work and over the top? But for a program where you're only going to have a player at max 3 years, but most of the people are going to be there 2, some may only be there 1. It seemed pretty effective, and the players were willing to take the hard coaching because they believed he cared, in my opinion.
I mean, I think when you have a black coach, I think black coaches definitely bring that next level of cultural empathy, which I think does go a long way, which also goes back to the recruiting. I don't know how much of, again, this goes back to the production of the show, how much of this was he just had more talent. Because I'm looking at some of those. Look, let me say this. When I was in high school and I played on a state championship team, we scrimmaged against our local JC team that was in the Final Four. That was in the Final Four of junior colleges throughout the state. We ran them. We played them, I think, 6 quarters, and we won 4 out of the 6 quarters. My point is that a lot of these JC teams are not that good, and they had a lot of talent. That's why at the end they said, hey, when we play against San Francisco, the court's going to be full of D1 talent, because I think throughout the year they weren't really playing against D1 talent. They just weren't. Right. But in the production of the show, that's kind of what's so great about the production of the show is, hey, there's a struggle. Are we going to win? Are we not going to win? I mean, you kind of forget that they only lost 1 game throughout the whole year.
Right.
And they were always right. Well, I mean, it was just kind of, but then they kind of made it sound like it was all these ups and downs and this and that. It's like, no, man, y'all were just probably better than these teams. But again, the genius in the show is showing the struggle, showing the background, which is more struggle. Are they going to make it? And really, they probably only had the game that they lost, maybe 1 or 2 other close games. And then they had, the potential game against San Francisco that they were really worried about. And again, that's no knock on the show. I'm just saying that I don't know if Coach Mosley is, I don't know how much of that was really just the coaching. It's like, you guys were undefeated, you guys lost 1 game. Was he really tested? I don't know. Go ahead.
Let me ask you this. Would you send your son to play for Coach Mosley?
I would let my son play for Coach Mosley. I don't think I would have my son be playing JC basketball. I think JC basketball is a waste of time. Unless maybe you're Sean Kemp. I mean, very limited situations, but I think JC basketball in general is a waste of time.
Of all the coaches thus far on Last Chance U, including football and basketball, how would you rank them in terms of you wanting your son to play for that coach?
Oh, I think
Casey
Coach
and
Mosley.
AJ.
I think Coach Mosley is probably the best, but I think Coach Mosley is definitely is probably the best. But like you said, this is basketball, so I mean, there's only so many guys. It's not football. I think here's the thing that I think a lot of people need to understand about college sports is you're an asset. You're a corporate asset, and you're not getting paid. And I think the genius of a lot of these coaches is, hey, I really care. No, but does he really? No, not really. He cares about his chip. He cares about his chip,
Right.
man. And again, and I'm not, knocking Coach Mosley over there. I'm just saying that I think that kind of is what it is. We got to be real. And I think the black community is uncomfortable with the business of sports still.
So let's transition to my man Joe Hampton. How did you think Coach Mosley handled Joe Hampton?
Let me say this about Joe Hampton real quick. And just as background for the audience, I went to Long Beach State, and I remember getting an article saying that Long Beach State landed a top recruit. And looking back on it, it was Joe Hampton. And I remember thinking, oh man, this dude's like a top whatever in the country. And they basically laid out all of his high school credentials in this article, but didn't tell you that he had all of these struggles and that sort of thing. But anyway, what was your question?
How did you think Coach Mosley handled Joe Hampton?
I think he handled him. I think he handled him great in terms of just short-term response. Like, hey, you know what? We got to just get him to make it through this season. And I think with a lot of guys, a lot of emotional players like that, that's what a lot of coaches tend to do is at the end of the day, again, it's about this chip. Joe, keep it together so that we can win this chip. Was there a lot of progress in terms of Joe and Joe probably needs therapy, man. And let me say this too. I think Joe's never going to play because I think there's a point in there where Joe said he wants to play pro ball in Europe. And it's like, Joe, you're not a pro. And Joe, you're probably never going to really be a pro. Meaning, and I'm talking about mentally. I mean, if like you're so not broken, that's not probably even the word, but if you're so emotional where you're getting all upset over every single call and it's this and it's that, and you get all upset at practice with college coaches watching, you don't got the discipline, man. You don't got the, and this is, and I think, if there's any kids watching, this is what separates the pros from the amateurs, man. And this is what going to the league is all about. Can you get up on a random Tuesday in Utah, lace them up, and go play and put up 30 against the Jazz when nobody cares? Can you get up, in the middle of a morning on a random Wednesday and put in that work? That's what being a pro is. Can you do it? Can you care when you have every single reason in the world not to care? Period. Can you care? And if you don't care, then you ain't really a pro, or at least you're not really a pro at sports. And I think some guys on the team had that pro mentality, and I think Joe had the talent, but he doesn't really have that talent. He could probably turn it on at certain points.
Would you have kicked Joe off the team?
No, if I was a coach, no. I'm trying to win, man.
Yeah.
And here's the thing too. You have to remember now. I think that's a part of Coach Mosley's brand is, hey, come on in here. Let's work with you. You're going to come off the bench to keep you kind of humble. But yeah, I would have worked with him. Why not? I'm just saying, though, let's not confuse a coach working with someone with really a coach really being invested in his future.
Right. The thing is that if with Joe's issues, he's going to have to be a hell of a player for a professional coach or professional team to deal with even one outburst. Because when I first saw the first outburst, I was like, you should kick him off the team. I mean, that was my initial reaction. Like, but I mean, he clearly can play. He's like really skilled in terms of like his technical footwork. He's not that athletic, but he can really play. But I don't know if he can't control his outbursts, even at the college level. You're really gonna have to be producing for coaches to put up with some of the shit he pulled at the JC. Now, I looked at his Long Beach State stats, and he's averaging 10 a game. I mean, he's kind of balling for someone that went from the junior college to Long Beach State. I mean, he's having really good games.
He only had one. I mean, he only has 1 year, right?
No, I think he has two because you can only I think he was eligible. He was eligible as a freshman when he first enrolled in Penn State, which meant that he could have transferred at any time. He didn't need to get his AA, but it seemed like he graduated and got his AA, and I think he has 2 years left. So he has this season and next year. And I don't know if he starts for Long Beach, but his statistics, I mean, he's averaging 10 a game. I mean, he's playing.
Well, man, I think he could definitely. I think he could definitely score. I think he definitely has confidence. I just don't know if he has those other intangibles to really keep it together. And I mean, here's the thing too. I think the problem when you're young and you get up on the ESPN.coms, you get hyped up. I think it's hard to stay hungry. And
Right.
and I think that was kind of his problem.
I think that one of the things that I thought they could have given us more of his backstory, because we didn't really know why he was so angry and what issues he had that was his response. Because I bet when he was like the 5-star recruit, he was doing similar things, but people were a lot more willing to put up with it because of his talent.
Yeah, and the thing too, let me say this. I don't know if because he went to Oak Hill. I don't know if going to an Oak Hill is the answer for a lot of it, because he was still talking about Oak Hill years and years later.
I mean, Fletcher, you still talk about North Memorial years later, and that ain't no Oak Hill.
But I'm not right. But I'm not on the basketball court playing professionally talking about my days back in Newark. I mean, I talk about it in terms of my brand, the law firm, etc. And I kind of talk about it just kind of in a not joking way, but I talk about it in like a reminiscing way. He was kind of talking about it like, well,
I mean, he's like 20, so I mean, I don't think that's a.
Yeah, it is. That's true. I mean, but I think. Let me be clear about this. I think he was probably the most talented. I think he was the most talented guy on the team in terms of just pure talent.
For sure, I agree.
And skills, and he didn't even start. But I mean, But that's also what I mean by I think that they're just talented than most of the teams they played.
What did you think about Malik? The big 6'9".
I think like Malik Muhammad. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Malik is classic. I'm good at basketball, but I don't really like basketball. But I've been good at it my whole life. Everyone tells me that I'm good at it, but I really like to play video games. Am I really that engaged? Like, I think he probably, if he loved hoop, like loved it, he'd be in the league.
Well, I don't think that the issue is the thing is, and this is the key. I don't think the issue is that whether or not he loved hoop. The issue is with him and a lot of players in general, and a lot of people in life. It's like, do you love the work? Because if you don't love the work, the issue is that he's showing up to practice a minute before practice starts when he really should be in the gym every waking hour. working on his hands, working on his footwork, working on his athleticism. And so, but in order for you to do that, you're not playing games. You know what I mean? Like they would always say, like, oh, Malik would play his best when his back is against the wall or, in 5-on-5s. But like, you're not going to have transcendent improvement in one skill unless you put in the work outside of a game setting. And so it appeared to me that he wasn't really a hard worker, and he appeared kind of soft. Now, a lot of times big guys are more prone to that, but he just appeared like he was really sensitive. Like when the guard was getting in his ass or the coaches were getting in his ass, it was like he couldn't handle someone. He couldn't handle the criticism.
Yeah, I mean, I think, yeah, I mean, and I think there's probably more personality. I mean, I don't think that is as big of an issue as, you're right. He just probably doesn't really love the work, and he probably just doesn't really, he doesn't really love it, man. I mean, he ended up going to Central Michigan.
Get his degree, hopefully.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Now, all right. Now, what did you think about Deshaun?
Well, you want to go to KJ first, or you want to go to Deshaun?
All right. Let's discuss KJ. So,
all right,
KJ. I thought that most games he appeared to be like their most consistent player. And when they had things rolling, it was because he was scoring, coming in, dunking the ball. I felt like they were kind of incomplete on his story because they talked about where he went to high school as a freshman, but then they didn't really discuss. I feel like he didn't go to Westchester all 4 years, but we didn't really know much about his recruitment. So to me, that's where I had the complaint. But I thought he might not have been as good as Joe, but in terms of like potential and who I would want, he was like not a problem at practice. He was pretty quiet, kind of a yes sir, no sir type of dude. Those are my thoughts.
I mean, he definitely seemed like a beast on the court. I kind of wonder though, when you put him on the court with guys just as big and just as fast, what happens to him? Because he didn't really seem very skilled. Off the court, he seemed a little slow. Let's just keep it a buck. He seemed a little bit slow. You saw his girl.
He's young, dog. He's young.
I was kind of like, you're the best player on the team. This is your girl, man. I mean, all up on Netflix. Wait, was it all up on Netflix? I'm looking at this and I'm like, dog, you're in LA, and this is who you're putting up on Netflix. I didn't know what to say, man. I'm looking at the TV and I'm like, is this his girl?
But the thing is,
and I feel like let me say this. I feel like the producers just just tied her all up into the story. And I just kind of felt like it was like an underhanded diss.
But the thing is that one, he's young. He's literally 18 or 19. And two, he's just probably happy that he's got access to it on a regular basis. And that may be like all he can get in his life. Like he may not know his value. Like he probably.
Hold on real quick, B. Hold on real quick.
He's probably not valuing himself as a man, but let me talk about some more of my impressions.
Okay, go ahead, B.
You back. All right. So I just said that he's probably not valuing himself as a man for whatever reason. But you only really know what you know. So if he's living at home and like
But I think here's the thing though, B.
he hasn't
I
had a
think
lot
that
of success.
I
Because no
think
one
though
was
that
at those junior college games. It's like you're the best player on the team, but no one's like like
but I think it
nobody's
goes
chasing
back to,
jerseys in at the JC.
but I think it goes back to mentality. It goes back to mentality. What's in this cat's mind?
I mean, I
One
just think
person's
that
opinion.
he was young. I mean, I was surprised that was his girlfriend, but
I was shocked. I was shocked. I was like,
it seemed like it came out of nowhere.
and
But
they kept showing her. That's why I was like, I mean, that's why I was like, this is kind of deep. It was just deep how they kind of tied her into the storyline for no apparent reason.
yeah, I didn't get having them study in the library and then
Yeah,
having them
because
watch
it
TV in
wasn't
the
like
classroom.
he wasn't doing anything in the classroom.
Right. But that also is another thing that I didn't like about this season is that they didn't have anything in the classroom. It was like these because usually they have cameras in the class. You get to know a teacher. There's like the black teacher that's the mentor to some of the kids, at least on the football teams. We didn't really even get that. It was all hope for the most
Well, you know
part.
what?
Maybe there was a
The
class
coach,
here and there, but
yeah, it was like class here and there. The coaches were kind of checking. Oh, what about this? I mean, I don't know, man. I mean, I put it like this: when I remember when I got to Long Beach and I saw how much work the basketball players were like putting in. Um, I instantly knew, all right, this ain't worth it. Because it's like, where are you going, man? I mean, we can get into playing overseas, and again, I'm not knocking that, but most dudes aren't playing overseas.
all right, let's get into the overseas thing. See, I think a guy like Joe Hampton clearly can play overseas in terms of skill wise. He's big, he's super skilled, um, he's physical, and the overseas game is not as they allow a lot more physicality, which would help him because it's not like he moves all that great. Um, but so I think on the court, in terms of skills, he can clearly play. Maybe the big guy, if he develops Malik, if he develops being 6'9", but he's going to have to bring either super high level athleticism or his skills are going to have to vastly improve for him to play, at least in Europe. He may be able to play in Asia as
But
a high flyer.
my thing about playing overseas, though, I think a lot of it though is about who you know, your agent. Because I think a lot of guys are probably eligible, or at least potentially, but work ethic, connection. Like is Joe Hampton playing overseas? No, he's not. B. He's not. If I
I
said
mean,
right now, 100,000 that he plays overseas versus he doesn't play overseas, and let's just say he's got to play overseas for at least 3 years.
no,
No, he was working at Dollar Tree, man.
no.
And this just gets back down to we got to be honest about. This goes back to a lot of times about character, work ethic, just intangibles that have nothing to do with hoop. And I think as I get older, you start to realize that kind of stuff is important, man.
Right. But
I mean, can you really go live in China? Forget playing hoop.
Well,
can you just go live in China?
right.
He's having a problem living in LA.
Right. I think that he would struggle off the court and even just in terms of his interpersonal skills. I completely agree with that. I completely agree. I think that like a KJ or a Malik, it's possible, but they would have to continue to develop because in a lot of these countries, they're only taking two or three Americans. And so you need to be like you need to be bringing something to the table, and a lot of times it's points. So you can't be Malik who can't catch the ball. Like that's not gonna bode well for you playing at least in the high level European leagues and even in Asia. So
I mean,
um
Malik's not going. Malik's not going to Europe. I think Malik, to me, I think, and again, I don't really know. I mean, he was so happy to get his AA. I don't, I don't know how. And again, that's no diss. But he was so happy to get his AA. I don't know how well he does academically, but I think a lot of these guys are hustling backwards, man. And I know we can kind of get into that a little bit more here, but
yeah.
we can go
Let's
to
not get into
Deshaun.
that. Yeah, let's go to Deshaun and then let's get into that. All right. What were your thoughts on Deshaun? And I did some more background information on Deshaun. And Deshaun graduated high school in 2016. So this is like his 5th year out of high school. I think he might have went to a prep school one year. That's not verified, but I read somewhere where he may have went to a prep school and then he went to New Mexico, walked on. That didn't work out, came back, and then went to 2 years at Eastside LA.
My thing with Deshaun is I think that's just like your classic hoop story, and love for the game, and I think his mom's story was real sad, but I think, again, man, I don't know if he really has the talent.
So right. This is what I was. I mean, clearly, I think that he recognized that he wasn't going to the NBA. That wasn't really. He was just trying to go D1, and
Right.
I think that. And this is what I would say. I think that the mentality of D1 or bust, people are doing themselves a disservice. He would have a much better experience if he went to a high level D2 program where they are winning, competing for conference championships, maybe going to the D2 national championship. You got fans at the game. And it feels like a real program. And it may have been a superior school to Sac State because him being a California resident, I mean, Sac State is not that expensive. Like it's a CSU. You arguably probably can make enough money and work and put yourself through school. And we both went to CSU as well. So I'm not like shitting on CSUs, but like he's not getting a ton of value. And the Sac State basketball program is trash. So, and he's not even playing. I don't even know if he's still on the team because he hasn't played in like 2 months throughout the end of the year. So, and he basically only played in 6 games this year. So I think that sometimes these athletes have this D1 or bust, but the reality is that you may be better off going down to a lower division where you can be on a more competitive team, play, and compete for titles. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't even know what conference Sac State is in, but they have never been to the tournament in my memory, and they're not even competing to get to the tournament.
His girl went with him. That's the worst part about him going. I'm thinking to myself, she's going with him to Sac State to do what?
I mean, support her.
It was just the blind leading the blind, man. It was just like, all right, he's gonna go up to Sac State and then do what?
But see, I think that he may be a good coach. So I think that this is what I think he would have been better off going to a program that has like where he was going to be able to win, right? And because I think that being around a winning culture, even if you are going to a program that is mid-major or low major, you want to go to like the best team in the conference so that you're competing and winning. I mean, it makes the experience feel different, even though you may not be Cal or UCLA or Kentucky or Duke. But if you go to a winning program, I think that it would open more doors and you'd be able to play Like if he went to upper tier D2 school in the Midwest or whatever, he might be getting a superior education. And he would be playing more likely than not. And then that would set him up if he wanted to coach. Because he struck me as someone that may get into coaching eventually. And so like and he was like one guy where I was like less worried about how well he'll do in life. Like he'll do pretty well because he appears to be a hard worker, and he was like relatively normal, all things considered. But when I heard that he was going to Sac State, I was like, like he would have been better off just trying to continue to be a walk-on at UTEP and making that work. In my opinion.
UTEP. I mean, look, man. I mean, my thing is this. I think that too many. I mean, even you intellectualize the whole go D2 and be a part of a winning culture.
Right. We can get into the point you want to make, but I think even at UTEP, the young dude, I can't remember his name, but the young dude that went to Salesian, the little guard, like this is like 10 years ago now.
That went to Oregon?
That went to Oregon and then transferred to UTEP. He's playing overseas. I mean, he's 4 or 5 years in overseas, and he was a guard. I mean, he played at UTEP.
Is he still playing?
Like all conference. He's still playing overseas. He's still playing overseas. Did you know that Diamond from Hayward High?
I think it's someone
St. Mary's.
Yeah.
He still plays overseas. So you can still make it if you can like stay injury free, and you basically are adaptable. I think that Diamond may play like in.
Here's my thing though: is I think that the whole quote unquote overseas is the next carrot to people who resign themselves with the fact that they're not going to go to the NBA. And I think that it's kind of sold to cats, and I think it's something that they kind of sell to other people. Like, oh yeah, I'm going to go play overseas. And I think some people do go play, and I'm not knocking it, but I'm just saying, for a lot of guys, no man, you're not going to go play overseas either. So now what's the plan? Coaching?
Right.
Okay.
Right. But Fletcher, before the guys that do, but I think that you're kind of trashing overseas, and the reality is that a lot of players can make pretty good money playing overseas. The first, I think it was 100,000. It may be up to like 125, but I know for sure the first 100,000 you earn overseas, you don't pay taxes on. So if a guy is playing overseas making a couple $100,000, I mean, like they're making good money, and usually the overseas teams provide your car, housing, and they may pay your local taxes.
Here's the thing though: if most of the guys in the NBA are basically broke after they finish playing in the NBA, what do you think is going on with the guys overseas? And I'm only saying that to say, again, what's the plan, man?
Right, but Fletcher, but I think
what's Deshaun going to be doing in 20 years?
Right, but I think that the mentality though, the mentality of the NBA is, one, you have guaranteed contracts, and two, someone with more money is more prone to be callous because they feel like, I'm never going to run out. The difference between someone making $10 million and someone making $300,000 is substantial. So when you make $10 million, it's like, what's this here and there, and you end up acquiring too many depreciating assets, which may cause you to go broke. But if you're only making $300,000, you're still in the top 1% of damn near all wage earners. You're definitely in the top 1% of all Black men that are wage earners. And so I'm not going to poo-poo on the athletes that are able to make careers overseas. Do I agree with you that it's limited? Yeah, clearly, because there's not that many spots. But I think this gets into our next topic is that I think that a lot of the guys on the team are ultimately wasting their time. And I know you feel the same way too. I think that if you want to take it, you can go.
No, I think, yeah, man. I think the majority of the guys are wasting their time, and I think, and time is money, man. And like I said, a lot of the reason of kind of where I'm at right now is basically the foundation I laid when I was in my 20s. And I think a lot of guys, um, just underestimate that. That's why I said, like, what's the plan in 20 years? And it always kind of jumps to, well, you can go over and play in Europe, and you can coach. And at the end of the day, I think the dream of playing in Europe is something that cats kind of sell to girls. Oh, you know what? I go over here, play a couple years at Sac State, and maybe we go over here to Europe, and you know we could go like live in France and make 300K. Come on, man. It's not. I think for your average cat, that's not going to happen. I mean, and this is the best team, arguably in the state, best team in Southern California. So, what about the guys who are playing at Rio Honda? Like, what are they doing?
That white boy was balling though. At least that first game, I was like, oh shit.
No, I mean, yeah, who's balling? But I'm just
Yeah,
saying, like, what if you're coming off the bench at Rio Honda? What are you doing?
you're wasting time.
Yeah, you're wasting time, man. I mean, I'm almost to the point where for hoop, I mean, I'll give you high school. You want to kind of go, you're a kid, okay. But even a lot of stuff in high school is like at a certain point, you have to really assess. All right, why are you here? Are you here just for the fun? Okay, all right, finish. Do you really have a chance to go play? You know, um, and I'm also at the point where if you're not really being recognized at night, if you're not being recognized by ESPN, if you aren't quote unquote discovered at a certain point, you better be hoping for a growth spurt, or you need to go and do something else. If you're gonna, because I mean, you're talking about go play overseas and make 100K for 2-3 years.
Well, I mean, if you're good, if you establish a career over there, you can be over there throughout your 20s. But you got to really grind. I mean,
You
this
gotta
is
really
my understanding.
grind.
You got to really grind, and you got to be okay with moving, switching countries, and switching cities year to year. Now, a lot of
Yeah,
cats may want to come back home, have a kid, and they're not maybe down for that nomad lifestyle. But if someone's able to adapt, you can be
and
you basically
I'm
can
to this too.
you basically can play in your 20s and basically earn enough money, and if you manage your money right, um not be set for life, but have a really strong foundation.
But my thing is, I think people are underestimating how good these dudes are, or how talented they are.
You mean in
And
Europe?
no, yeah, the Europe overseas. I mean, I'm talking
Okay.
about Kyle Spain. He's still playing, but Kyle Spain's arguably probably the best player I've ever been on the court with, arguably. So my point is, you have to be really good, man. And most guys aren't. Like, I think you have to be top 1% of basketball players in your generation.
What so like let's say like um like
And
what
we'll
would
get
you
to.
have told to what would you what advice would you have given to Sean?
I think Deshaun has the interpersonal skills to do something other than hoop. Now, does he know that? Probably not. But I could tell from his personality, leadership skills, he can go and do something else outside of hoop, or just maybe in business, something like that, sales, something. He's got some skills there. Um, Other cats on the team, maybe not so much, or other cats on the team, they have to develop it, they have to mature, they have to get. But my thing is that there's other ways to make money outside of just hoop. There's other ways to there's other ways to have a good life other than hoop. And I love the game. But yeah, and I think that's the disservice that a lot of the black coaches are kind of doing is they're kind of selling that same company line. Oh, come over here, go to school, and change your family's life. No, they don't have time, man. I mean, there's people out here studying, 40 hours a week. Like there's people over here studying in their class, like they're grinding on hoop. You know what I mean? They're trying to do the minimum in class. There's people over here grinding. And my thing is, you're not going to win in school because you're not you don't really want it that bad. You're giving the company line. The school's giving you, hey, you know what? Come over here, get your education for free. You're not really making any connections or contacts on campus. You're not really killing it in the classroom. Are you really getting value? I think some people are, but your average cat probably not. One man's opinion.
I mean, what would you tell someone that has the size like a Malik or a Joe? Would you be
I would tell a Malik, a Joe, a KJ to go walk on to the best school that you can go to, or the best brand of school. So if it means go walk on at Stanford, go walk on at Cal, go get that taste and be done. Like if you're
right, but you got to get into Cal or Stanford. These cats aren't getting into Stanford from a JC.
Right, but I'm saying this goes back to what you were saying about Deshaun playing over at UTEP. Go play, walk on, do whatever, but make sure that you want to be where you want to be. Meaning this: if you're going to, if you're going to Rio Honda JC to play hoop, make sure you really want to be at Rio Honda, man. Like life is too short,
right.
And and ultimately, because the chances of you making it anywhere are slim to none anyway. So just make sure that you really want to be there. If you really want to be there, cool. But you have to really want to be there. And I think a lot of guys are just kind of going through the motions, or a lot of guys are just, just kind of taking whatever's in front of them. And I'm just like, man, a lot of this is just, to me, like a waste of time, man. Like,
I completely agree. And that's where I think that the downside about Coach Mosley, I think that he's doing them a service by having them practice every day, just having that direction and giving them that level of structure. But then the downside of that is that ultimately 10 years from now, there's going to be no tangible benefit from you being on the best JC team in Southern California in 2020. There's going to be no tangible benefit. Whereas if you had invested that same time in, like, for instance, learning how to code or improving your writing or improving your reading comprehension, that's going to pay benefits down the lifetime. And I just don't think that, I think that when I always cringe when I see or hear young men talk about ball is life and all this shit, or sometimes my clients be talking about their kids and they'll be like, oh, I got to get them into AAU. I got to pay for this. I got to pay for that. And I'm kind of like, for a lot of kids, it's a waste of time. Now, there's some select kids where your kid has the potential, and it may not be a waste of time. But I think that as our culture, we're far too overinvested in sports, and the reality is that, and this goes back to our other conversation on college, is that you got to be the elite of the elite to make any money. You got to be the elite of the elite to go D1. And then you got to be the elite of the elite to make a dime as a professional in any of these pro sports, like elite of elite. And so, but the reality is that not everybody's going to be there. They had 12 dudes on their team. And so if you're sitting the bench and if you're sitting the bench and you're a guard and you're like 6'1", 6'2", and you can't play at a JC, you probably should quit and focus on your grades.
I mean, I think that's no, I agree, man. And or and it may not even be focused on your grades. Maybe you go and you get a sales job. Maybe you go and do, but go do something. Because I think a lot of people are, trying to live a alternative lifestyle, and they're really just going through the motions. I mean, I was talking to a client. He's like talking about his rap career, and no, I'm not going to talk about him. I know of another guy who's a producer, and my main point is this: you got to be a pro, man. Like you got to put out content, you got to put in the work, but at the same time, too, you need to make sure that um, you have the talent to get to where you actually want to go. And I'm not saying that, and I'm not in the position to always judge that, and I can admit that, but um, but I think when everyone's chasing the baller's life dream, or the rap career, or the producing career, it becomes the lottery. You know what I mean? Like you got to go and do something different, or you need to really take a different approach to it. And I think a lot of this hoop stuff now is just the lottery. And the thing is this: a lot of the people on the sidelines, and this is why these last chance U's do so well. A lot of the people on the sidelines can't really tell if you are the guy or not, because you look the part. You got the tattoos, you got the baller's life. I've been doing this, my dream, UTEP, and this, and that, and they don't realize, like, no, these guys aren't going to the NBA. But I think there's really legitimately fans that watch this show thinking KJ Allen may go to SC and he might go to the league. And the Project Browns of the world know better. But the first 5 seconds of today's show, you're saying KJ has a chance.
I mean, if you go to SC and play, you got a shot at playing the league. That's a fact. If you're playing Pac-12 and starting and playing, you're going to get an opportunity to play in the G League. At minimum, you're going to get an opportunity to play in Summer League, possibly the G League, if you're playing.
What did KJ do at SC this year?
He didn't go to SC. He signed to go to SC. He starts this fall.
Okay.
Because he didn't qualify out of high school, so he's got to graduate and get his AA. So you don't qualify out of high school, you got to spend 2 years at a JC. If you qualify academically out of high school, you can bounce from a JC after 1 year.
Oh shit! I didn't know that. So yeah, I can see him not qualifying there. I mean,
so if he plays next year at SC as a junior, I mean, he may redshirt or whatever, but like if he plays as a senior at 6'6", 6'7", I mean, he's gonna have to develop to play in the league. But I mean, it's not that far of a possibility. The USC center is probably getting drafted top 3. Their center the year before got drafted 5th. They have like a couple of dudes in the league. The all-star from the Magic played at SC for 4 years. So
I mean, I'm not saying that it's impossible.
It's not like he's playing at Dominguez Hills. Like if he signed at Dominguez Hills, I'd be like, oh, all right. Like,
and the thing is, there's a lot of these guys who had Division II offers, and they're like, oh no, yeah, I'm holding out for this, and it's like, all right, man. I mean, Malik, you're doing all this, and now you're playing at Central Michigan. All right. I just feel like these cats don't understand that this is still your life, man.
Right, but see, to me, I wonder if he turned down. I think the show should have covered this. Did he turn down UC Davis to go to Central Michigan?
That's what it sounds like.
Because to me, UC Davis is probably a far superior school than Central Michigan, and if it doesn't work out on the court, at least you're at a top tier academic school, in my opinion.
That's true, but But B, you have to remember, I don't know how much this cat really values education, and I know that's not politically correct to say. Um, and my biggest point is ultimately, these cats have to realize that it's your life, man. And I just feel like running up to Central Michigan, all right, but you know, I mean, I was broke in my 20s, especially in college, but those are some of the best years of my life. And I see these cats playing hoop and kind of chasing, these quote unquote empty dreams. And I'm just like, man, dog, you only got one life, man.
Right.
And and you know, KJ's probably not going to the league. Me can name all the dudes that, but probably not. I mean, you ain't putting your money. I mean, you're not putting your money on him.
But if I had to put my money on one guy on the team, I would probably make like he'll get a shot. I mean, and the thing is like if he plays well, and let's say he's all conference,
No. Let's do this. If I said, all right, the next potential client to call your office with the case, we don't know how, just with the case, you don't know how good it is, you don't know how bad it is. But if I said, all right, who would you rather put your money on? You being able to take that case and get some money out of it, and we can identify a number, but you being able to take that case and get some money out of it, or KJ going to the league, which one you gonna bet?
Oh, I mean, just a random call,
Random
just a random the next potential client.
potential client, but they have to have a case that's within your area that you can actually take. There's an insurance company on the other side,
Oh yeah,
but you don't know necessarily the strength.
I'm just taking the call.
Yeah, that's kind of
I'm not saying that
kind of
KJ has strong odds. It's not like KJ's Jalen Green. You know what I mean?
right.
Like I'm not confused about that. But what I'm simply saying
But
is,
I mean, that's kind of my overall point. Is I mean, there's a lot of guys on the margins where there's a lot of guys on the margins, man, who probably just aren't really going to the league, and that's no diss to them, but it's like, and a lot of these dudes I think are talented. Like you can tell Deshaun, he could probably do some stuff outside of hoop, but everything's
sure.
ball is life. But everything's ball is life. Did you see all of the Nipsey tattoos?
Yeah, I mean, the commitment that these players are making with their tats at such a young age. I was thinking, like, man, when I was 18, if I was getting tats, I would have had hella Asian symbols because that was like the popular thing. Remember when everybody was wearing Asian hats? Um, the commitment is like that to me. Like Deshaun had the all money in shit tatted on his shoulder.
All right, look, man.
It's
And
a different generation.
listen to my
So
point.
to each his own.
I remember when I was pledging. I remember all these cats who were pledging me. The quote unquote big brothers. There was a point right before we crossed where they were like begging us to get like the chapter tattoo. I remember thinking, damn, y'all did all this to us, and you're begging me to get this tattoo that you're willing to pay for. And I just saw the hustle. I was like, nah. And I just kind of feel like so much of life is that, where it's like people are just kind of begging you to choose the wrong answer. And I think that's kind of what's hard about life. And I feel like a lot of these dudes, Doc, this is the wrong answer. And I think it's hard when, you're on ESPN.com and you're ranked, 150th, and everyone at your school is like, oh, you're on ESPN. And it's like, yeah, but you're not going to the league, dog. And that's hard.
Right. But see, I think that now
Because then I turn into a hater.
Right.
But that's kind of the reality, man. No.
Right. Right. But you're gonna say, I was listening to a Dame Lillard podcast. Did you know that he went to Arroyo?
his freshman year.
Yeah, and then he went to St. Joe's.
Yeah,
Played
he had a
varsity,
touchdown.
didn't play. Then he didn't play, didn't get off the bench, and then he went to Ohio. But the point is, though, is that Dame did show he had Division One offers, St. Mary's, Weber State, etc. But I think that players are going to look to Dame, even Steph's brother, as all CJ McCollum, as all these late bloomers with possibilities. And so I don't. So that's where I'm not going to be on some absolutist, but at the same time, CJ, Steph, Seth, Dame were balling by their sophomore and junior year in college. So it wasn't like they were scoring 25, 30 points a game where people knew like, okay, this guy is legit. Maybe he's not going to be an NBA All-Star. Maybe he's not, but he's clearly going to get a shot to play in the league. And so I think that players should look to those guys as an example and be unrealistic until the reality and the data is so overwhelming where it's like, all right, you're a junior, you graduated, you're old junior too. So you're 20, 21, 22. You're not out here playing a lot. I mean, it may be time for you to focus your energy on something else that may be more beneficial to you and your family in the future. So, I mean, that's kind of like the hard line because the reality is that like there are a lot of exceptions. There are like random people like the TOs, the Chad Johnsons, the Steve Francis who never played high school basketball, who played one or 2 years of junior college, a year at Maryland, and then was in the NBA. So there are these freaks of nature, but at some point, those freaks of nature demonstrated value so that they put themselves on the map. And for the masses, like if you're coming off the bench at your junior college, you're probably not the next Dame.
Well, that, and I think that people, I think, downplay how clear cut it is, like how clear cut the value is, like the value proposition. Meaning, like you said, Dame was killing it. And my thing is, and Dame probably put in. I mean, I remember with when it comes to CJ McCollum, I remember some podcast or some show where he was talking about the amount of work he put in. You know, you hear what's his name, Gilbert Arenas talking about how much work he put in.
Yeah.
A lot of these cats probably ain't putting in that kind of work. Now I think Deshaun probably put in some work at UTEP, but my thing is, I remember Gilbert Arenas was like, man, you know what? By my second year, or no, he said before the start of his freshman year season, he said that he was a different player. He put in so much work that he was a different player. And when you hear that coming from an NBA player, that you just know that I'm just a different player. I mean, and you've probably had different points in your life where either through school or whatever, you look back and you're just like, nah, man, I'm just a different dude. Even now, like when it comes to me running my firm versus 10 years ago, I'm just a different dude, and I'm seeing things that I just didn't see before. And I just kind of feel like a lot of these players never get to that level. And we got to be honest. Like, you need to be killing it. You need to be, you need to just be on that next level. And we got to be honest about that.
Right. And the thing is that it's a very short window. And so if you're not killing your peers, particularly in college, by the time you're 20, 21, for sure 22, then when you go to the pros and you got Luka Doncic, who's only 21, who's killing it in the pros, you got to make it's another step. So, and the bad thing about sports is that your athletic peak is like 27, 28, maybe 29, and then you're on the decline. And so it's not like if I was an athlete, my career would be over. If me being an attorney being an athlete, my career would be over. Like, it would have been over years ago, right? And so, um,
But 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 the thing too is, I don't think these cats realize that, chase the dream, but realize you are giving something up. And no one, and I know these cats are young, but my thing is, you're giving something up, man. And I'm not saying that don't chase it, but just realize you're giving something up. And I think that these cats can do a lot more. And when you say, all right, I can go make 300 in um, Europe, yeah, man, you could also go to school and make 300 on something here too.
right,
And that's kind of my, and that's my overall point. And I think when it comes to these black coaches, no one really wants to say that because that's not, that doesn't line up with their agenda. It's like a conflict of interest to really pull someone to the side, to really pull that 12th man to the side and be like, dog, why are you here? Go focus on school.
right, right. But see, for instance, but when you I agree with you, but at the same time, I recognize that there are some guys that ain't doing, and they may be able to make 300 grand because of good business sense or something that's unrelated to school, but like not everybody not everybody may have the inclination or the ability to excel at school.
No,
Like,
true, true.
I don't think it hurts to try. Like, what else are you doing in your 20s?
Well,
But
well. My thing too is I'm not even necessarily saying formal school. I'm just saying you can go out here and do something, something else. I mean, even like Joe Hampton. Um, they said he worked at Dollar Tree and he worked somewhere else. He worked somewhere else and he worked at Dollar Tree. And my whole thing is, and then he wanted to come back to hoop and whatever. But my thing is, it doesn't have to be Dollar Tree or hoop, man. There's other stuff in the world.
right, but that's all he knows, and that's why I wanted
Yeah.
to know more about his background in terms of back home. Because if all you know is like hoop and work in retail, you may not you may believe that um, certain fields are unachievable for you when you may be good at them. You may be like he may be a better engineer than he is a hooper, for instance. So, but you don't really know that if you never get exposed to it. And we're gonna wrap up soon, but one of the more interesting scenes was when they took them camping, right? And they went up to the woods and they were like I remember Joe was like, "Oh, this is some dope shit, whatever." But um, because of hoop, you're not really a real student, so your exposure to like life is like extremely limited, and your opportunity to get exposed to different things is limited. And so um
You know what's
that's where
crazy?
like
Real quick.
culturally, like I'm like, damn, like they're
You know
like
what's
missing out a lot.
you know what's crazy? And I'm just gonna go ahead and plug the firm, Fletcher Brown Law Firm, representing injured workers throughout the state of California. We are now doing Social Security disability. Um, Let me say this: our cousin hit me up, and we're talking, and he asked me, he was like, "Yeah, Fletcher, have you had a chance to really go out and you know travel and see the world?" And 'cause I think he's looking at some of my content. And I was like,
Who's this put it in the private chat who this cousin is.
um, and and so uh, so I was like, yeah, man, like I've been all over the world, man. Thailand, boom, boom, and I named all these different cities. I mean, I've been in every continent except for Australia and Antarctica, and named all these different cities. I was like, yeah, man, I've been all over the world. I was, oh, what? Yeah. And um, my point is, you have to travel and you have to have new experiences to get perspective. And I think a lot of these cats don't have any perspective. Like you don't know how good you are. It's kind of like KJ Allen. You're on Netflix. You're the best player on the team, and look at your girl, dog. Like you don't even
Come
know.
on, man.
You don't even know.
Come on, man.
And no one is there to really tell you, like, oh, what are you doing, man? Nah.
I think the
Like, you don't
coaches are
even,
trying to tell him that.
I don't
They're,
know.
they're, I mean, they're trying to be nice
But
about it when they're talking about she's trying to breed you.
that's the problem with the coaches too, is they're pushing their own agenda. And this even goes for black coaches, white coaches, everyone's pushing their own agenda on you. And you need to be able to have the perspective to be like, nah, man, that ain't for me. And if you're the 12th man, it's like, dude, what are you doing? You know, like you have to be. My thing is this. I think one of the worst things, and this probably goes to the like art of war and things like that, but confusion is the most dangerous thing in the world, man. And I be looking at Last Chance U, and it's just a lot of confusion. But there are, I think Last Chance U highlights a lot of talent. So you see a lot of talented cats in there. But at the end of the day, man, it's like you can just do other stuff, man. That's my biggest thing is it's a big world out here, man. There's a lot of stuff there that like you can do besides sports and entertainment, which is really just entertainment.
Right, right. No, I completely agree. It'll be interesting to see if they continue with basketball or if they go to another sport.
Well, what other sports are there to go to?
Baseball,
College baseball?
JC, baseball,
Come on.
maybe wrestling.
Okay, let me say this. Let me say this. They're packaging black pain. That's what's compelling. That's not. I mean, it's basically hip hop. It's hip hop. This is a hip hop show. Can we agree on that? It's a hip hop show. Is there any confusion with that?
So you're saying that if they went to middle of nowhere, Iowa, and all the players were white, you think it'd be less popular?
Or else they'll be doing that. Come on, man. I mean, the thing is this. I think what's compelling about the show is hoop. I mean, do you know how many people have asked me if I played sports in college? Do you know how often I get that? I get that a lot. No basketball near me. Just, oh, did you play in college? No. Oh, okay. All right. I get that a lot. I get that. Look, I get that enough where I think I would be more likable if I did play. Which is a whole nother conversation going a whole nother way. But my main point is, I mean, there's other stuff out here, and I think a lot of these coaches push that agenda, and I think that was my takeaway from it. Is damn man, this cat's got, Coach Moses got a lot of dudes on the team just wasting time. Now they'll be able to say that I was on this Netflix show, but
Yeah, well,
just a lot of wasted time, man.
I mean, yeah, I agree with you. I think that the sports industrial complex, for the most part, for most people.
And I used to be, real quick too, I used to be huge on hoop. But now,
real quick, I think it could be done if someone's really smart, where they can manage a rigorous academic course as well as playing hoop. But for most people, that's not really realistic, and especially at a D1 school where the coaches aren't got top 1% salaries, and they are not playing around with you taking a chemistry class or being chemistry majors.
But my issue is no one really wants to be honest about the fact that you're getting this piece of paper, but you're not really here for the same reasons that the other students are kind of here. And it's also one of those things where, we're looking at, my son I was looking at different private schools and that sort of thing. And to me, you got to be careful going to a school where you're accepting financial aid, because I think there's like an implicit situation where it's like, you can only really say so much, because to a certain degree you're here because you got this aid, versus the people who are actually paying full price. And people in America don't really want to be honest about that. A lot of Black people don't want to be honest about that. There is a difference between when you pay full price and when you get that discount.
Well, we're gonna have to discuss that offline.
That's a whole, that's a whole nother, that's a whole nother show for a whole nother day.
Yeah, but thank you for coming on, Fletcher Brown. Where can people find you?
At Fletcher Brown Law Firm on IG, FletcherBrown.law on Google, and wherever you see this Black and Gold logo.
Salute to everybody listening. This is Broderick Brown. You can, if you're interested in my legal services, you can find us at fightslumlords.com or broderickbrown.com. Until next time.